They say nurses are angels in disguise, selfless, compassionate, dedicated to saving lives. But what if one was hiding a far darker passion? What if the same hands that once stitched wounds were just as skilled at carving flesh? What if the woman who spent decades healing the sick was secretly feeding on the bodies of those who crossed her? For years, people whispered about the disappearances. A cruel landlord. A disrespectful grocery clerk. A neighbor who laughed at the wrong moment. They vanished without a trace. No bodies. No leads. Just a lingering stench, one that never seemed to leave her kitchen. The truth? She wasn't just getting rid of them. She was serving them. On a plate. We put our trust in caregivers. We believe in their oaths to do no harm. We expect their hands to bring comfort, not suffering. But sometimes, those hands don't just treat pain, they cause it. Her patients, her neighbors, even her so-called friends, none of them suspected a thing. They pitied the lonely old woman, mocked her bad luck in love, dismissed her as nothing more than a bitter, aging nurse. But they didn't know the truth. That Eleanor Whitmore had one rule: if you disrespected her, you wouldn't just die. You'd become dinner. Welcome to True Crime Department, where we expose the darkest, most twisted crimes that leave even seasoned detectives shaken. If you're drawn to cases that blur the line between reality and horror, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this one will haunt you. Now, let's unravel the shocking case of a nurse who turned her rage into a recipe for terror. Eleanor Whitmore's story didn't begin with bloodshed. It began with quiet bitterness, the kind that festers in the dark, growing sharper with every humiliation, every whispered insult, every betrayal that cut her deeper than any scalpel ever could. Born in the humid heat of Florida, Eleanor came from a world that expected women to serve, submit, and stay silent. But she was never the type to accept fate without a fight. She worked hard, studied harder, and became a nurse, not out of passion, but out of necessity. A stable career. A respected position. A way to ensure she never had to beg a man for survival. When she moved to Huntsville, Alabama, she found more than just a new home. She found purpose. For over 30 years, she stood in the sterile, fluorescent-lit halls of hospitals and clinics, tending to the weak, the broken, the dying. She was efficient. Strict. Unforgiving. Patients feared her sharp tongue as much as they feared the sharp instruments she handled so effortlessly. But the town respected her. And for a time, that was enough. Until it wasn't. Behind closed doors, Eleanor Whitmore was unraveling. On the surface, she was nothing more than an aging, no-nonsense woman with a sharp glare and a spine of steel. But the cracks were there, subtle at first, growing wider with every passing year. She never smiled. Never laughed. Never indulged in idle gossip like the other nurses. She lived alone in a modest house, never had guests over, and kept to herself. People assumed she was just another bitter woman unlucky in love. What they didn't know was that Eleanor didn't see herself as unlucky. She saw herself as cursed. Eleanor Whitmore wasn't born a killer. Life made her one. Before the bloodshed, before the horrors hidden behind her kitchen doors, before the name Eleanor Whitmore sent shivers down the spines of those who once mocked her, she was just a girl. A girl raised in a world that took and took until there was nothing left but rage and the will to make others suffer just as she had. She was born into violence. Her mother, Lorraine, was a ghost of a woman, bruised, hollow-eyed, and desperate to be loved. Eleanor didn't remember a time when their house wasn't filled with screaming. Glass shattering against walls. The sound of fists meeting flesh. The stink of cheap beer and sweat as one of her mother's men stomped through their tiny home, leaving destruction in his wake. Her father was the first monster in her life. A cruel man with a quick temper and even quicker fists. He didn't just hit Lorraine. He humiliated her. Made her crawl. Made her beg. And Eleanor watched. But she never cried. Not even when she was small enough to still sleep with a stuffed bear, clutching it tightly as she listened to her mother whimper in the next room. Not even when her father turned his anger on her, a sharp backhand across the face for speaking out of turn. She swallowed her pain, buried it deep where no one could see. And then, one day, he left. No goodbyes. No explanations. Just an empty chair at the dinner table and bills piling up on the counter faster than Lorraine could count. Eleanor was 7 years old when she realized something terrible about the world. Men leave. Men destroy. Men take and never give. Her mother chased love like an addict chasing a high, always clinging to the next man, always believing the next one would be different. But they were all the same. Liars. Cheaters. Thieves. And every time one of them walked away, Lorraine shattered a little more. Eleanor swore she would never be like her mother. She would be strong. She would be independent. And she would never, ever beg for love. But life had other plans. As a young woman, she tried. She really did. She went to school. Worked hard. Became a nurse because it was stable, respectable. Something that no man could take away from her. But she was lonely. And the loneliness was a gnawing, aching thing. It whispered to her at night, telling her she was unwanted. That no one would ever choose her. So when Raymond Williams came into her life, charming and full of sweet words, she let herself believe. Their marriage started like a dream. For the first time, Eleanor felt wanted. But dreams don't last, and neither did Raymond's devotion. The charm faded, replaced by something colder, something cruel. She caught him cheating 3 years into their marriage. Not once, not twice, but so many times she lost count. He never even bothered to hide it. He laughed in her face when she confronted him. Told her she was too stiff, too cold, too boring to keep a man. She should have left. Instead, he left her. And suddenly, Eleanor was back where she started, alone, humiliated, and seething with resentment. Then came Gerald Owens. He was different. Quiet. Thoughtful. A man who seemed like he wanted a simple life. She let herself believe again. That was her mistake. Gerald was a liar. A thief. He drained her bank account dry. Gambled away everything she had built for herself. When the debt collectors came knocking, he vanished into the night, leaving her drowning in bills and shame. Eleanor was older now. Wiser. Or so she thought. Because then came Douglas Fields. Douglas wasn't like the others. He didn't just leave her. He destroyed her. Their divorce was a public circus. He humiliated her in court, mocking her in front of everyone, calling her frigid, bitter, a washed-up old hag who couldn't satisfy a man if her life depended on it. The courtroom laughed. The town whispered. Even the judge smirked. And Eleanor Whitmore, a woman who had spent her life clawing for dignity, for control, for some ounce of respect, stood there and took it. But something inside her snapped that day. She walked out of that courthouse a different woman. The bitterness that had been festering inside her for years was now poisonous. She stopped trying to be liked. Stopped caring what people thought. Stopped believing that she could ever be happy. But more than that, she stopped forgiving. She saw the way people looked at her. The way men smirked when she passed by. The way women whispered, giggled behind their hands, reveling in her downfall. They thought she was a joke. A pathetic, broken woman. But they had no idea what was coming. Because Eleanor Whitmore didn't just become bitter. She became something else entirely. She stopped being just another divorcee drowning in resentment. She became something far, far worse. She started small. Calculated. Her victims weren't just random. They were people who deserved it. People who had wronged her. People who needed to be taught a lesson. Like the cashier. It had been a long, miserable afternoon. Eleanor's bones ached. The Alabama heat was unbearable. And yet, she had dragged herself to the store for a simple purchase. A few cans of soup. Bread. Coffee. A bottle of wine for the nights when her thoughts got too loud. She handed over her coupons. And then, the laughter. The young woman at the register, a blonde with gum-popping lips and vacant, soulless eyes, looked at Eleanor like she was something pathetic. "Ma'am, these expired last year." Eleanor's jaw tightened. She knew that tone. That mockery. That quiet condescension that had followed her for years. The cashier turned to her coworker, giggling. "Poor thing probably can't even afford full price," she whispered. Eleanor's hands clenched into fists. She left the store without a word. But she would be back. That night, she watched the girl finish her shift. She followed her home. Waited. And when the moment was right, she struck. The girl never made it inside. A swift, brutal blow to the back of the head. A body shoved into the trunk. A drive down to Eleanor's house, where the real work began. By the time the sun rose, the girl was gone. The only thing left of her was simmering in a pot. Eleanor had learned something from Francis Delacroix. She didn't just enjoy the kill, she enjoyed the ritual. The process of cleaning the meat. Cooking it. Consuming it. It was intimate. Sacred. A way to absorb their energy. With every bite, she felt stronger. Bolder. More alive than she had in years. And once she started, she couldn't stop. Next was the landlord. He had been threatening to evict her for months, muttering about unpaid fees and lease violations. One day, he pounded on her door, his voice full of arrogance. "You're an old woman living alone," he sneered. "Where else you gonna go?" That was all it took. The next time he entered her house, Eleanor offered him a drink. A glass of sweet tea, laced with just enough poison to make his limbs heavy. His breathing slow. His words slur. He didn't even make it to the door. She dragged his useless, twitching body into the kitchen, humming as she prepared her knives. No one ever came looking for him. The authorities chalked it up to another deadbeat running from debt. Eleanor smiled at the irony. He had threatened to take away her home. Instead, she took his life. Then came the man at the bar. She had been in a rare mood that night. Feeling good. Feeling confident. She had done her hair. Put on lipstick. Ordered a drink and made small talk with a man at the counter. He wasn't anything special. Just another aging fool looking for company. But when she leaned in, just slightly, just enough to test the waters, his reaction was instant. "Oh, God, lady, no offense, but I'm not looking for that." And then he laughed. Not just at her. At the idea of her. As if the thought of touching her was so absurd it was comical. Eleanor sat in stunned silence as he turned his back on her, ordering another beer as if she had never existed. That laugh haunted her for days. Until she found him again. It wasn't difficult. Men like him never strayed too far from the places they knew. She watched him stumble out of the bar, keys jingling in his drunken fingers. And she followed. The attack was swift. Precise. A shadow moving through the night. A sharp object plunging deep. He never saw it coming. He never saw her. By the time his body hit the ground, Eleanor was already dragging him into her car. His flesh sizzled beautifully in the pan that night. And as she sat at her table, the meal spread before her, she raised her glass in a mock toast. "Not looking for that, huh?" she muttered, taking a bite. The taste of power was addicting. And Eleanor had plenty more names on her list. She became bolder. More reckless. Strangulations. Poisonings. Stabbings. A body count that kept growing. And yet, no one suspected a thing. Because who would ever suspect her? She was just Eleanor. A nurse. A neighbor. A nobody. The disappearances raised concerns, sure. But people went missing all the time. A deadbeat landlord. A drunken barfly. A girl who could have run away. The town barely blinked. And Eleanor kept cooking. Kept feasting. Kept killing. Until the night everything changed. The end came quietly. Not with a dramatic chase or a violent standoff. Not with Eleanor Whitmore desperately trying to cover her tracks or fleeing town. No. The woman who had spent decades playing God, deciding who lived and who died, was caught because of something so simple, so stupid, that it was almost laughable. A camera. A single, unblinking eye that had captured what no one had suspected for years. Eleanor's final victim was Miriam Holloway, a 79-year-old woman in her care. Miriam was weak. Frail. Dependent. The kind of woman who needed help even for the smallest things, getting out of bed, taking a bath, eating her meals. But despite her physical vulnerability, Miriam had one thing Eleanor hated more than anything. A mouth that never stopped running. She complained. She criticized. She made snide remarks about Eleanor's age, her appearance, her loneliness. She asked intrusive questions about her personal life, poked at wounds Eleanor thought had long scarred over. 3 husbands and not a single one stuck around. Miriam mused one evening as Eleanor adjusted her pillows. "What does that say about you?" Eleanor froze. That old, familiar rage began to rise, curling in her stomach like smoke. "You must have been a miserable wife." Eleanor tightened her grip on the pillow she was holding. "Bitter. Cold. That's why men leave, you know. You probably weren't even good in bed." And just like that, the decision was made. Miriam Holloway had to die. Later that night, Eleanor did what she had done so many times before. She waited until the house was still. Until the only sounds were the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock and Miriam's uneven breathing. Then she crept into the room, silent as death itself. Miriam didn't even get the chance to scream. Eleanor pressed the pillow against her face, forcing it down with all her strength. There was a brief struggle, weak hands flailing, legs kicking under the blankets, but it didn't last long. Eleanor had strangled tougher ones before. The moment the old woman's body fell still, Eleanor sighed. Relaxed. It was always like this. A rush of rage. A moment of violence. Then, peace. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Eleanor worked quickly. Efficiently. She had a system, one that had kept her hidden for years. She moved the body to the basement, where she did what she always did. Cut. Carve. Slice. And when the time came, she carefully packed the pieces into black plastic bags, double-layered to keep anything from leaking. She drove out to the pond, the same pond she had used for years, the water a graveyard for those who had wronged her. The night was quiet. Still. She stepped out of the car, dragging the bags to the edge of the water. One by one, she tossed them in, the weight of the bones pulling them under. And she would have gotten away with it. If she had just noticed the camera. A newly installed security camera at a business near the pond caught everything. The grainy footage showed a shadowy figure unloading heavy black bags from a trunk, struggling slightly under the weight. It was blurry, but not blurry enough. The car was clear. And so was the license plate. The footage landed in the hands of local police, and suddenly, questions started swirling. Who was this woman? What was in those bags? And then, the missing persons reports started piling up. People who had been in Eleanor's care. People with no family, no one to notice their disappearance right away. But they were missing nonetheless. And Eleanor was the last person to see them alive. When police knocked on her door, Eleanor wasn't surprised. She had been expecting this for years. Still, she greeted them calmly, wiping her hands on a dish towel, the faint scent of something cooking lingering in the air. The officers weren't prepared for what they were about to see. The moment they stepped inside, they were hit with a stench so foul, so overwhelming, that one of them nearly gagged. It smelled like rotting meat. Like decay. Like something that should never be inside a home. And then, they opened the fridge. What they found inside would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Neatly wrapped packages of human flesh. Some frozen. Some fresh. Some, already cooked. One officer, voice shaking, demanded an explanation. Eleanor only smiled. Then they found the diary. A thick, leather-bound book, sitting on her nightstand as if it were nothing more than a collection of casual thoughts. Inside were pages upon pages of handwritten confessions. Each one more horrifying than the last. She detailed every murder. She wrote about the thrill of watching them struggle. She wrote about the way their bodies had been prepared, the way the meat tasted. She even had recipes. As officers flipped through the pages, horror creeping into their faces, Eleanor sighed. "You'll find at least 20 in there," she said casually, as if she were discussing the weather. Then she tilted her head and added, "But that's just the ones I felt like writing about." In the interrogation room, she showed no emotion. No regret. No fear. She leaned back in her chair, almost amused by the officers' expressions. One of them, voice shaking, asked the question everyone wanted the answer to. Why? For a moment, Eleanor was quiet. Then she shrugged. They deserved it. And with that, she sealed her fate. Eleanor sat in the interrogation room, her hands resting neatly on the table. The officers had been expecting resistance. A breakdown. Tears. Rage. A plea for mercy. They got none of that. Instead, Eleanor was calm. Unbothered. Even as they listed the charges against her. Murder, dismemberment, cannibalism, she barely blinked. When they told her they had linked her to at least 14 murders, she didn't argue. Didn't deny it. Didn't defend herself. Instead, she smiled. Only 14, she mused, tilting her head slightly. I guess I didn't do a good enough job hiding the rest. A chill ran through the room. Because that was the moment they realized, there were more. They had uncovered 14 bodies. But how many had they missed? How many had been reduced to nothing more than ashes in her fireplace, bones scattered across lakes and forests, flesh consumed and forgotten? The officers exchanged uneasy glances. They had never seen anything like this. Eleanor didn't kill for money. She didn't kill for revenge. She killed because people annoyed her. Because they mocked her. Dismissed her. Insulted her failed marriages. And for that, they had to die. Her ex-husbands had abandoned her. Her colleagues had ridiculed her. And society had cast her aside, labeling her as nothing more than a bitter, lonely woman. But now. Now she had control. And she relished it. As the investigators dug deeper into her twisted diary, the true horror of what she had done became impossible to comprehend. One entry, written in perfect cursive, chilled them to the core. Poison is my favorite. It's slow. Gives them time to realize what's happening. Gives me time to watch. I like watching. Another entry described a man she had dismembered while he was still alive. He begged, she had written. Cried like a baby. I told him he should have thought about that before embarrassing me in front of everyone. Before rejecting me. She had no mercy. No conscience. No hesitation. Authorities began to suspect that Eleanor had been killing long before they ever caught her. Her earliest victims. Likely from when she was in her 30s. A young woman, moving through life with a quiet grudge, a hidden rage simmering beneath the surface. A nurse. Someone trusted. Someone who could kill without suspicion. Patients who had mysteriously died under her care. People she had helped in their final moments. Bodies that had never been exhumed, never examined, because who would suspect a kind, elderly caregiver? It was all so clear now. The pattern. The victims. She had been getting away with murder for decades. And no one had even noticed. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, families of victims, law enforcement officers, and spectators filled every seat, eager to catch a glimpse of the woman who had turned murder into a pastime. The air was thick with anticipation as Eleanor Whitmore was led inside. But it wasn't shame on her face. Not guilt. Not fear. No, Eleanor was smiling. Her hands, still wrinkled with age, were cuffed in front of her, but that didn't stop her from raising them just slightly, and waving. The cameras exploded with flashes. The moment sent a wave of disgust and shock through the room. How could she be so casual? So amused? She had butchered people. Cooked them. Eaten them. And now, standing in a courtroom surrounded by the grieving families of her victims, she acted as if she were the guest of honor. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A few reporters gasped. A woman, a relative of one of the men she had poisoned, collapsed in sobs. But Eleanor? She simply sat down, unbothered. Not once did she look away from the cameras. Not once did she acknowledge the grieving families. She sat there, unmoving, waiting, like this was nothing more than a routine doctor's appointment. The prosecutor stood, his voice shaking with controlled fury. Your Honor, we are dealing with an individual whose crimes defy human understanding. Eleanor Whitmore is a predator, a cold-blooded killer who hunted her victims with precision. She poisoned, strangled, and butchered innocent people, all for her own twisted pleasure. Eleanor blinked slowly. She wasn't offended. She wasn't angry. She just listened. Like someone hearing a bedtime story. The prosecutor's voice grew harsher. And yet, here she sits, showing not a shred of remorse. No guilt. No sorrow. Instead, he turned abruptly toward her, his voice rising. Ms. Whitmore, do you even feel sorry for what you've done? For a long moment, Eleanor didn't answer. She just held his gaze. Then, finally, she tilted her head slightly. And smiled. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. The judge shifted in his seat. A few jurors exchanged glances. Even the guard standing at her sides visibly tensed. That smile, that eerie, knowing smile, was the closest thing Eleanor had ever given to a confession. A woman in the audience, a sister of one of the victims, let out a strangled sob. Another relative shouted in anger. But Eleanor never broke eye contact with the prosecutor. She just kept smiling. Like she was enjoying this. The trial dragged on for weeks, but nothing changed. Testimonies were given. Crime scene photos were displayed. Horrific details of her twisted diary entries were read aloud. The world heard how she had poisoned a man just because he turned her down. How she had suffocated an elderly woman for calling her a miserable old maid. How she had carefully butchered her victims, cooking their remains in her tiny, unassuming kitchen. And through it all, Eleanor never shed a single tear. Not once did she express regret. Not once did she apologize. She simply sat there, watching. Waiting. As if the trial was nothing more than an inconvenience. The prosecution demanded the death penalty. But before the judge could make that decision, the defense made their final move. They had Eleanor evaluated by multiple psychiatrists. And the results were unanimous. She was insane. A woman with a deeply disturbed mind, no sense of morality, and an utter detachment from human emotion. The final ruling came down like a thunderclap. Eleanor Whitmore will not be sentenced to death. She will be remanded to a high-security psychiatric hospital, where she will remain for the rest of her natural life. The courtroom exploded with outrage. Relatives of the victims cried out. Some cursed. Some even lunged forward, needing to be held back by guards. But Eleanor? Eleanor sighed. A long, slow exhale. And for the first time since her arrest, her smile disappeared. Not out of anger. Not out of fear. But out of relief. Because this was exactly what she wanted. She never intended to fight for her freedom. She never wanted to spend the rest of her life running. Deep down, she had known. Her crimes were too big. Her past too stained with blood. She was going to get caught eventually. Eleanor Whitmore's crimes were never just about murder. They were about power. Control. Revenge. She didn't kill for money. She didn't kill out of fear. She killed because she wanted to. Because she enjoyed it. She was never the frail old woman her neighbors thought she was. She wasn't the quiet, caring nurse she pretended to be. She was a predator, a cold, calculating killer hiding in plain sight. For years, she lived among them. The friendly old woman who waved from her porch. The nurse who checked pulses and handed out pills. The quiet tenant who never made a fuss. She knew how to blend in. How to keep her secrets buried. And for decades, she got away with it. Until she didn't. Her crimes left the world in shock. A nurse. Someone sworn to protect and heal had been slaughtering people without a second thought. She had poisoned them. Suffocated them. Dismembered them. And worse, she had eaten them. The sheer horror of her actions sent waves of fear through the community. If someone like Eleanor Whitmore could be a monster, then who else could be? How many other predators were lurking behind kind smiles and gentle hands? She had fooled everyone. But in the end, justice caught up with her. We trust nurses to care for the sick. We trust the elderly to be fragile and harmless. But Eleanor Whitmore shattered that illusion. She proved that sometimes, the kind old lady next door, is hiding a far darker secret. She thought she could get away with murder. She thought no one would ever suspect Granny. But in the end, they did. If this case left you speechless, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because here at True Crime Department,